Okay, so we're going to create the rectangle. Again, that's the rectangle tool. So right click, recent input, there'll be a rectangle in there somewhere. There you go. And the first corner point is 129,95. Enter. And then the second value is 15 across. I'll use a tab this time, and 10. Enter. Okay, so that should take us right to this line here. If this is sitting over another one, we've offset something incorrectly. So it should line up perfectly with this. So we've got these lines coming through. We need to remove those parts, and we also need to sort this out as well. Now the next bit we need to do is to offset this. So we use the offset tool, and the distance is going to be 0.5. Enter. And then we click on this and offset to the inside. We're now at the bottom of page 14, and we're looking at trimming out these lines here. Now there's a couple of ways to trim, and I'll take you through, using this as an example, take you through both methods. So if we choose the trim tool, then you get a little sign saying select objects or, and then in brackets select all. Now that select all bit means that if you hit enter, like I'm going to do, it changes to select objects to trim or shift select to extend, and then you've got another option with the down arrow, fence, crossing, project. So you can use all these different selection methods to create a line in which we can trim to. So let's go back and start that again. Hit enter. So what does this mean if it says or select all? Well, basically by hitting the enter key and not selecting any specific object to trim to, it allows me to randomly prune bits and pieces, providing I've got something to trim to. So if I was to trim that out, and this out, and this out, and this out, then I can't trim this anymore because there's nothing to trim to. This is just a sort of a segment of the circle. So I'll just step back, Control Z. Now I could trim this one to there, and I could trim that bit to there, and I could trim that to there, and that to there. So I've now opened that up completely based on trimming, and anything else I could trim that line, I could trim this line, I could trim part of this if I could see the rest of it. No, that won't do because that's just one line with nothing to trim to. So you see the way that the trim works if you are in random pruning mode. So let's Control Z to go back to where we were and hit enter. No, sorry, hit escape, and I'll show you the other method. So if I now go back to the trim command, and it says select object. So if I select this object, then I'm now going to trim to this line, whether I click on the outside or the inside. Now I have to hit enter first, so after I've selected the objects, I hit enter. And now it's asking me to select the objects to trim. And if I choose this line, then it's going to trim all the way to this point and all the way to that point. And this one likewise. If I chose the other one, it's going to trim everything except this bit all the way around to these lines. So that's the major difference between selecting an object or just sort of randomly pruning bits and pieces out of the drawing. Okay, so the select is much more precise, and depends on how busy the drawing is, can be much quicker, whereas the just selecting everything on the drawing allows you to go around and prune various different bits and pieces of the geometry as you see fit. So either would be suitable in this instance. If you were left with elements stranded in the middle, then you could just select and delete them. So again, don't sit there trying to click it to trim it and wondering why it won't trim. The reason it won't trim is because there's nothing to trim it to. Just select it and hit delete, and that's the line's gone. That's a long-winded explanation on what we need to do to get rid of these two lines. But the trimming does cause people a lot of confusion, and hopefully that's cleared some of it up. So I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. Now I need to delete this, but because it's all part of this thing, if I delete that, the whole thing goes. So there's no way in this reset array, replace item, edit source, so I can't really do anything else apart from go to the home tab and use this icon, which is the explode, and that's going to take out any associativity with the array, and it now allows me to select that individual object and delete it. We've got some more trimming, so I'm going to trim this bit out of this. So again, I'll use the trim tool and I'll select this and then hit enter and then select that. So that's going to trim that whole thing out. I've also got to trim these 3 lines and these 3 lines to these 2 lines. Now I'm going to do the other method this time. So hit trim, just hit enter, and I can click that, that and that, and this, this and this, and then hit escape. And that's all my trimming done. Okay, so we'll call this video quits at that point. Then when we come back, we'll create the strap coming down the side, and then we'll mirror that to the other side as well. Okay.